Welcome, everyone. I'm your host, Tricia Reid, and this is my guest, Tina Anderson from Just Thrive. How are you today, Tina?
I'm great, Tricia. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. Thanks so much for joining us. And thank you for redirecting your life to focus on probiotics. I mean, you switched from being a lawyer, and in that transition was becoming a mom, and then you started focusing on healing guts. How did this happen?
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting journey, a little bit rare for a lot of people that I'm in the same space with. But I started out as an attorney. I was working in litigation, crazy hours, and weekends, nights, all day. I mean, it was a little bit too intense for the lifestyle that I wanted. And then I started having children, and I thought, this is not the life I want to have with my children. So I was fortunate enough to go into a family pharmaceutical business where I was able to be in-house counsel, and my husband was there as well. And so we were in the pharmaceutical world and thinking we were doing some really fantastic things because we were like, oh, we're delivering life-saving medications and we're doing all of these wonderful things to help people with health. But after being in the pharmaceutical industry for a while, we started to realize that that industry in and of itself just was focusing so much more on treatments rather than prevention or maintenance. I feel like pharmaceuticals, there's a place for them, emergency type medicine, God forbid if there was a broken bone or, some heart attack or something like that. Of course, there are places for emergency type medicine or acute type of situations, but it's not a place that we believe that you focus on chronic, issues and chronic disease. And we're about like getting to the root cause of things and why are people having high cholesterol? What can we do about that? Why do you have a autoimmune disease? And trying to get to the root cause. And so we are very deep thinkers, and we read a lot of Norman Vincent Peale and Wayne Dyer and all those great thinkers. And we just didn't believe we were doing our life's work. And so we decided to start researching different areas in the natural health world, and wanted to like have our career pivot into a area that really meant something to us and that was more in line with the way we lived our lives with our children and ourselves. And so we I swear, I think it was just being at the right place at the right time, a lot of meditation and prayer, and we were able to license these very exclusive strains of probiotics from London University, and from there Just Thrive was born. So it's really been the most gratifying career journey I have ever been on.
So, where did the product line start? So, you bought these patents from the college.
We bought the exclusive rights to these strains, and then we launched our probiotic. And so we went against all business books out there that say you should never launch one product, one SKU, but we did it because we knew how important it was, and we were disruptors in the market. We were the only probiotic out there that had these types of strains in them. It was a very different approach to gut health. It was a very different science. There was very different science behind it, and we were disruptors in the market. And it was a hard climb, but I would do it over and over again any day of the week because it's just been amazing what it's done for us personally and our families, and just for so many of our customers and our family of friends.
So, let's break down the importance of probiotics and what have you seen change for you and your loved ones?
Yeah. Well, if you don't mind, do you mind if we just break it down even further to
Yeah.
gut health? It's like even taking, probiotics out of there, just like why gut health is so important. I can't emphasize enough that every aspect of our overall health is related to the health of our gut or our microbiome. And so we need to be focusing on our gut. And so for so long, so many people associated gut health as like constipation or diarrhea or, acid reflux even, or gas and bloating. And for sure, those types of conditions are definitely signs that you have some imbalance in your gut. But what we're now learning with the Human Microbiome Project that was launched by the National Institutes of Health about 10 years ago or so is that virtually every aspect of our overall health is tied to an imbalance or a balance of our gut. So, when we talk about skin health, or our immune system is a huge one. Of course, our immune system is directly tied to the health of our gut. But like heart disease, diabetes, cancer, all of these types, Alzheimer's, dementia, mental health disorders, all of those types of conditions are all tied to the health or the unhealth of our microbiome and our gut. And so we really need to be focusing on gut health. And the sad part is that we live in this world that is so disruptive to our gut. We know now that we are 10 times more bacterial cells than we are human cells. That, I mean, just for a second, think about that: 10 times more bacterial cells than we are human cells. And yet we live in this antimicrobial world. In fact, there was a study that came out that said that, households that use cleaning supplies that say, kills 99.99% of the bacteria actually have children with a higher incidence of allergies and autoimmune diseases, because we're killing off our beneficial bacteria when we're killing all the bacteria around us. And there are so many other offenders to our gut health in the world we live in, from the toxins in our environment, all of the endocrine disruptors that are the household products that we have, all of the cleaning supplies and hair care products that we use. But most important is like antibiotics. Antibiotics are very disruptive to the gut. And of course, I would never say that you shouldn't take an antibiotic if if it needs to save your life, or if you're really, really ill. There is a time and a place for an antibiotic, but there really has been an overprescribing of antibiotics. And the interesting thing is the CDC came up with a study that showed, or a finding that showed, that about 50% of antibiotics that are prescribed to people are actually unnecessary. And a lot of that is due to, the patient even pushing the doctor to give them a prescription for it. But it's also doctors who are like, oh, here, just take this, so then
Just in case.
yes, exactly, like I'm going out of town, or they're going out of town, so let me write a antibiotic, or cover myself, because for malpractice and those types of things. But the antibiotic, and the bad part about it is that a lot of times when people don't need an antibiotic, what they don't realize is that they're taking they may have a virus of some sort. And I'm not talking about COVID or coronavirus. I'm just talking about like some other type of virus they maybe have that they're fighting, and now they're taking an antibiotic, and that antibiotic is actually killing off the beneficial bacteria in the gut, because we know antibiotics kill the bad bacteria, which we want them to do, but they're also killing off the good bacteria, which we don't want them to do. And so now you're disrupting that balance or that ecosystem in your gut. And then all of a sudden now your immune system is compromised and not able to fight that viral infection. And so it's really important that we recognize that our immune system, that 80% of our immune system is found in our gut lining, that our gut is really indicative of how well our body will respond to viruses, pathogens, and all of those types of disruptors in the gut. So we know that antibiotics that we take could be detrimental to the gut. We know that antibiotics are found in much of our food supply. A lot of the animal products are found with antibiotics in them because they're being fed them to get fatter and all of that. So the food we're eating, that's why I'm always preaching to eat as clean as you can. And then,
Will probiotics negate bad eating though?
well, it certainly is better than if you're not doing that. I mean,
Okay.
I'm such a like perfectionist that I want it to be like, oh, you should be eating clean and taking a spore-based probiotic, of course. But I mean, there are things that you could be doing, just by eating, that will be beneficial to your gut by trying to eat clean. But probiotics, of course, is the easiest way to do it, if you're taking a spore base. But I would always suggest that you're hitting your gut from every angle you possibly can, because that's how important it is and how disruptive the world we live in is. So, the glyphosate, which is the active ingredient in Roundup, is sprayed all over our crops. And the scary part about glyphosate is that glyphosates actually target only the beneficial bacteria. So they're not even killing off the bad bacteria. They're only killing off the good bacteria. So, and glyphosate is in our food supplies and our rainwater. It's all over the place. So there really are a lot that, toxin stress is a huge factor. There's a huge connection between the gut and the brain. And so there's a lot of disruptors to our gut anyway. And it's really a shame, because our gut is really dictating virtually every single aspect of our overall health. It's hard to find any disease that's not associated with an imbalance in the gut. People will have like a skin rash, maybe they have acne or a skin rash or whatever it may be, and that is all an indication that your gut is imbalanced. And most people would never think that. And of course, you could take some topical type of cream to make it better, but people aren't really realizing that you need to be taking care of your gut in order to help skin issues that you may have.
So let's talk about the team behind you and your husband that creates these products.
Yeah. So we have an amazing team. So my husband and I are co-founders. We started this 7 years ago, and it was, oh my God, it's been awesome. We've never worked so hard in our lives. All the crazy hours I worked at as an attorney don't even come close to what happened when we started building this business. I mean, because it was really the two of us for a long time. And then we started bringing in a team, and we have our microbiologist who is, he's amazing. He speaks throughout the world on the gut health and the microbiome, and he was the kind of the impetus behind these strains, and it was our relationship with him that got us into this field, which has been amazing. He's been at our side the whole time. And then our team is, then we have our operations team and our marketing team that have just been amazing. We have the best culture ever. I can't speak enough about the people that are behind us. We never could be doing what we're doing without the love and the compassion. I love every single person that's on our team. We have such a fun relationship, and that's really important to me, and has been probably one of the best surprises of being an entrepreneur, is that it's fun to affect lives of people with our products, which has been amazing. And I expected that to happen, but I never expected to have this relationship with our team members and to have the love and compassion for each other. We have retreats throughout the year, and because we're a remote team, but just incredible people. And to know that they're so happy in their roles. And it just makes me really happy to know that we could still do well as a company, but yet really provide awesome jobs and opportunities for everybody. It's not even a job to them, I don't think. I mean, that's not the way I feel. It's who they are. They just have become such a part of this company. It's been awesome. So
Something that strikes me as you say that is if the probiotics, right? If probiotics, specifically these probiotics, really are doing their job, it is affecting the emotions of those who are taking it. So let's talk a little bit about that.
yes, yes, that's such a good point. It really is. I had some friends who were like, I have so much more energy now. I just can't believe. In fact, she was like, "You saved my marriage." I'm like, okay, that's kind of a stretch, but she's like, seriously, I had no energy. It was like my husband wanted to go out, and I never wanted to go out, and he'd get mad at me. And so, we've seen that there is such a tie with your gut and your brain, and people don't realize that's. I'm always telling people, like, implement a mindful practice, because that will help your gut health. But it's this opposite is true too. Take care of your gut, and then your mental health will be improved. And I can't emphasize that enough. That's so important. There is something called the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is the largest nerve in the body, and it connects all the way from the brainstem to the intestines. And so they are constantly sending signals back and forth to each other. So when people will say, I got that butterfly feeling in my stomach, I mean, that's really real. I mean, our brain is sending signals to our gut, and it's pretty incredible. And the opposite is true too. Our gut is sending signals to the brain. So we really need to be very mindful, and we have to be aware that we have, like, what we're saying, the words that we use will affect our gut health. And I know it sounds so woo woo to people, but it's very, very true. And I'm very careful with the words I say and the emotions I try to feel. And I live in a place of gratitude on a very regular basis. That's a theme in our company. It's one of our core values. And I think that really does support your gut health. And like I said, the reverse is true also.
So, what about the types of foods that we eat? Are they potentially high in probiotics as well?
Yeah, great question. And so that's I feel like it's one of the myths out there in probiotic, in the, health space, is that people feel like, oh, I could have sauerkraut or different fermented foods and I get probiotics. And of course, sauerkraut and fermented foods are really beneficial to the gut. They're very nutrient dense. They have a lot of byproducts that are super beneficial to the gut, but they are not a replacement for a probiotic. One of the biggest problems with probiotics in general, whether it's a capsule form that you buy in a bottle, or whether it's from food like sauerkraut or other fermented foods, those probiotic sources are made up of lactobacillus and bifidobacterium. those strains are very sensitive organisms. They have difficulty surviving the gastric system, the stomach. The stomach is very acidic and they have a lot of difficulty getting to the intestines alive. So the majority of those types of probiotic strains that are found in like the conventional probiotics and fermented foods are lactobacillus and bifidobacterium, and they will die by the time they get to the intestines. It doesn't mean that they won't do something for you. You may get some symptomatic relief, but they are essentially dead bacteria therapy. They are not getting to the intestines 100% alive. And so that's why the foods that we eat, the way our ancestors got true probiotics that were alive, that are these spore forming type of probiotic strains, were from food, but they were from the soil, really. Like they were eating off the land. They were eating the roots and tubers off of the land. And then they were getting that soil, and the soil was comprised of these bacillus strains of probiotics. And that's what the spore-based probiotics are. They're bacillus spore-based probiotics. And they have the ability to survive naturally 100% alive in the intestines. They have this endospore shell around themselves that allows them to make the journey from the bottle into your body through the harsh conditions of the stomach acid into the intestines 100% alive. So it's a very, very different approach to gut health, and to what we want bacteria to be alive when it comes to the intestines. That's the very definition of a probiotic, is to arrive 100% alive in the intestines. And the overwhelming sources of probiotics, whether they're food or supplements, are just not arriving alive.
So what about vitamins? What about taking vitamins, and is one just important as the other, or are they enhancing each other?
Yeah. Well, I always feel that, where you start at ground zero is gut health, because if you have any inflammation going on in your gut, you are not absorbing nutrients. So you could be eating clean, you could be eating the healthiest food, taking great vitamins and different supplements. But if your gut is inflamed, it's not absorbing the nutrients. So whenever you're talking about health, the number one place you start is your gut health. I mean, I feel so passionately about that and so strongly about that, because it is really, we know now the research is coming. There was like, over the last few years, there were 50,000 studies on the gut microbiome. I mean, they are studying.
I love it.
Me too. Believe me, me too. I mean, we're just scratching the surface on this. I mean, this is so exciting. And so we really need to be focusing on our gut health. And before you start doing other things, I am a huge supplement taker. I'm a huge vitamin taker. I feel like we are missing so many key nutrients. And but I would always caution people not to be taking all these things until you first start addressing your gut health.
This is fantastic. So overall inflammation, if somebody's digestive process is inflamed, essentially they're eating and starving. But also, if the food's not breaking down, then that's triggering more inflammation. So in my mind, that fight, flight, flee reaction that the human goes through is actually happening internally. And we can't run from what's scary if it's happening inside of us. How would you suggest somebody approach that?
Yeah. Well, I think, and the biggest source of inflammation in the body is leaky gut. I mean, leaky gut, and just for those that are listening that don't necessarily know what leaky gut is, it's basically exactly what it sounds like. I mean, we have this intestinal wall, and the intestine, you have food and particles and toxins that are in your gut, and you have this strong barrier, this intestinal wall that's preventing those toxins and food particles to enter into your bloodstream. So think of your intestinal wall as just this, barrier that's protecting the bloodstream. And what happens is that when you have a leaky gut, the tight junctions of the intestinal wall start to open up, and these toxins start to stream into your bloodstream, causing this chronic inflammatory response. And this is truly the driver of almost all chronic diseases. There was a study that came out on Alzheimer's showing the number one driver of Alzheimer's is, this LPS toxins leaking into your bloodstream. And so we have to be focusing on the integrity of our gut wall. That is, and people are hearing about it. And a lot of people say, well, how do I know if I have a leaky gut? I would assume that you do have one, because there was a study that showed healthy Americans, 50% of them had a leaky gut and didn't know it. And so now the world we live in that's so toxic to our gut health, I mean, there are some people that are estimating that 80% of the adult population has a leaky gut and they don't even know it. And it's like that drippy faucet, it's that slow drip. So yeah, you have a leaky gut and some toxins go in year after year and like, oh, it's no big deal. But then all of a sudden it starts to create this, it all starts to overflow. And so it's really important that, that inflammatory response by our body is so detrimental to our gut health and to our overall health. And so I would definitely suggest that if you want to talk about inflammation, that you start addressing the gut, because we do not want a leakiness of the gut at all.
So something that occurs to me prior to ever ever taking probiotics was the inflammation slash brain fog that would
Mhm.
happen. And not just brain fog, but like outbursts. Like if I ate one thing, then the next day I'm having this outburst. And so with taking probiotics, I don't get that.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? I have heard that so often from people, and that's the thing. Like even with happiness, 90% of our serotonin is produced in our gut. All these important neurotransmitters are produced in our gut. GABA is produced in our gut, and so not only do we have this gut brain connection, and why you have less emotional outbursts and things like that, because like you're sending signals, positive signals to the brain, but all your neurotransmitters are also being produced in your gut. So there is such a connection. So I'm so glad you brought that up. There's a huge connection.
What about like drinking kombucha or eating yogurt, the old school way of thinking?
Yeah, it would be the same thing. So one of the first studies, the same thing that I had talked about previously, about it's a source. There's a lot of great benefits from it. I mean, of course, sugar is loaded in most yogurts, but of course, if you're eating yogurt that's clean, then that's good and has a lot of great benefits for you, as long as there's not a lot of sugar in it, because sugar is also another big offender of gut health. But kombucha, those are all great sources of gut health. They've got great things and that are working in your gut, but I wouldn't suggest that they be a replacement of a probiotic. And that would be the biggest distinction. It's great to support gut health, but it's not really a replacement of a probiotic.
Okay. And what about refrigeration of probiotics?
Yeah. Love that topic, because so many people, that is such a myth out there in the industry. People will say, "Oh, I need to get one in the refrigerator because that means it's a high quality probiotic." And it's so funny to me, because when you think about it, if a probiotic needs to be refrigerated, it's because it can't withstand the room temperature of the store shelf. So if it can't withstand the room temperature of the store shelf, meaning it would die on the store shelf, how in the world would it survive your body temperature, which is 98.6? And the answer is they really don't. I mean, they're not surviving. These probiotics are dead or on arrival generally. If the body temperature doesn't kill them, the acidity and the stomach acid would kill them. And we've studied this. We are very, very big on research and studies. And that the first study that we did was a survivability study. It was a gastric survivability study. And it was done at a lab outside of Chicago that basically measured the pH. It was the pH of a 1.3, which is the normal pharmacopoeia standard of a pH, a normal human's pH. And it showed the leading selling probiotic sold at a major health food store died 99.99% by the time it got to the intestines. Yeah, isn't that crazy? And same thing with a leading selling yogurt, died 99.99% by the time they got to the intestines. So it really is, it's just not a source of probiotics per se. I mean, they're metabolic modifiers is basically what they are, but they're not really a probiotic.
So let's talk about the average dose of Just Thrive probiotics.
Oh, yeah. So the average dose is just one capsule a day. It's the easiest thing that you could do. It's one capsule a day, and you just take it with after a meal. So you could take it on an empty stomach, but we've done a study. Again, we did a study to see really what's the best way to utilize these strains, and it showed that these strains actually germinate with food. They germinate throughout the intestine, so they're using the food. So I always say you get more for your money if you take it at the end of a meal. So it's literally the easiest thing to do for your gut health. I mean, we know that these strains are literally creating a 30% shift in the microbiome after just 2 weeks. That was we did a gut model study also shortly after we launched that showed a 30% favorable shift in the gut. I don't know of any other probiotic that has a study that's that profound just after 2.5 weeks, showing shift, meaning that we are helping the balance of good and bad bacteria, where the good bacteria is outnumbering the bad bacteria. So just it's super easy.
So what about the importance of using the prebiotic?
Yeah, so the prebiotic is really exciting too. We are a gut health company for the most part, and we specialize on gut health. That's where our research is. But we really we didn't launch a prebiotic for a long time because we felt that prebiotics could sometimes make a problem worse, because basically the prebiotic is the fertilizer for the garden. So it's a fertilizer for the bacteria. Unfortunately, some prebiotics, or many prebiotics, they don't know how to distinguish between the beneficial bacteria and the pathogenic bacteria, or the bad bacteria. So they sometimes, people will start taking a prebiotic and they actually get worse on it because they're feeding the bad bacteria. Now there's already an overgrowth of the bad bacteria, and now it's making it worse. And so that's basically, why we found these particular oligosaccharide these fibers that basically showed us that they're only targeting the beneficial bacteria. And so we launched the prebiotic. So it's really important, because what our goal is in the gut is to have a diverse microbiome. We want lots of different types of strains. We want, strains. We want more good bacteria than bad bacteria. We want our beneficial bacteria to really outnumber the bad bacteria, or good bacteria to outnumber the bad bacteria. I just want to make sure I said that right. And then we want diversity. We want lots of different types of strains, and we do this with the probiotic, but then the prebiotic just amplifies that. So it's like 10 to 100 times, you're going to be getting more of that diversity in the gut. So that's why it's really important to do the probiotic with the prebiotic as well.
So how would somebody know? I mean, we talked about emotions and those joyful states, but how else would somebody know that these are working for them?
Oh, yeah, great question. And so I think that, if somebody has some type of gut dysbiosis, or they have some type of gastrointestinal issues and things like that, they'll notice pretty quickly, sometimes within a few days even. Some people who have other issues that may take a little bit longer, maybe a month, but most people within a month or two will start seeing a difference. But by far, the majority of people are within a couple of weeks. They would start to see some type of a difference. Now, if you don't have any gastrointestinal issues, which was the case with me, I had none that I knew of or anything like that. But then I just started to see such increased regularity. I started to see my immune system really being supported by so much of, like all the things going on. I mean, I've seen it with my family, with my kids, with my parents and my in-laws. It's been amazing, what it does for us. So, but you start to see just an overall feeling of, more energy, like we said, better. Some people report better sleep, feeling a little lighter. A lot of people have said it's helped with weight management, just because, think about, like, it's helping combat that yeast overgrowth and the sugar cravings. It's your gut bacteria that's making you have those sugar cravings. So we've got to start cleaning that up too. So I think that it's sometimes it's subtle and sometimes it's very profound. It depends on the person and what they're experiencing at the time.
So there's this fun theory in Chinese medicine called goo. I don't know if you've heard of it, but
No.
in goo, with this theory, we're hosting parasites, viruses, bacteria, and sometimes there's energy or thoughts or ideas attached to those critters in their coming and going from our body. And so, like I was saying prior to our recording starting, can you speak into the emotions that might be happening when the bad bacteria are dying?
Yeah. So die off is a very real thing, so people may start on the product and might say, well, my gosh, now I am having more, gas and bloating, or I'm having, more constipation or diarrhea, or I'm feeling emotional, or, they're having some negative emotion. And that is sometimes, or that is due in large part because of die off. And die off is basically kind of what it sounds like. Also, it's the bad bacteria leaving your body, and they're fighting for their space. And so there's this die-off reaction. It's called the Herxheim. I mean, you've probably heard of that before. And so we really, we always tell people just to start slowly sometimes, especially if you already have some, imbalance going on. Start slowly, Some people that don't know they have an imbalance going on, we suggest they start slowly. And then by slowly, I say you could do a half a capsule every other day, or one capsule every other day. You could open the capsules and mix it with food. Really great for kids too. And we could go into that in the
Yeah.
second.
Yeah. That's where I was going to go next.
Okay, good, good. But yeah, so I mean, and so people they could feel all different kinds of things. I mean, they could feel some emotions, they could feel, I would say the majority of people don't feel that. So, but there's a good percentage of people that do, and so we never want to discount that. And those are a lot of times the people who need it the most. So, and it's so sad when they're like, oh no, I don't want to take it because it made me feel a certain way. And it's like, no, it's working, but it's hard to go through that. So we just tell people to take it at a dose that's, you could tolerate well. Take a half a capsule, one capsule every other day, whatever works for you.
Mhm. And we had talked a bit about antibiotics earlier. And from what I understand, these are okay to take while somebody's on antibiotics.
Yes, in fact, they are the best part about it. We studied this to show that these strains actually survive in the presence of probiotic or antibiotics. So the majority of probiotics would be destroyed by the presence of an antibiotic, but we've actually studied ours, and they show that they survive the presence of an antibiotic, which is so phenomenal, because when you are taking an antibiotic and you have to take one, you want to, we know that it's destroying your gut, your good bacteria. So how important it is to know you have a probiotic that actually survived the presence of an antibiotic. So, yep, great question.
What about for people who are vegetarian or vegan or paleo or keto or
They're perfect for all of those groups. Yeah, we're all of those free of everything. It's literally, we have the strains. These are strains that were, found in nature years ago, and such a natural product. And we haven't entericoated them. A lot of companies will entericoat their strains to try to get them through the gastric system, but we did not do anything like that with our strains. So they're just nature's true probiotics.
I love it. I love it. So technically, based on how many capsules are in a bottle, how much would it cost for someone to use one pill a day or maybe every other day to maximize using something like this?
Yeah. So one capsule or one bottle is $49.99. And if you go on a subscription, it would be $44.99 with free shipping. So the subscription is the way to go. And people will say, well, do I need to take this all the time? And so the reason my answer is yes, is because we know that this world we're living in is so disruptive to our microbiome. And so that's why it's so imperative. Like, if there's one supplement you're willing to spend your money on, it is a spore-based probiotic, because literally it is, I mean, our gut is being attacked on a daily basis. So I would definitely suggest that you could take one a day. And even if you feel like that's a little bit outside of your budget, even if you take one every other day, you are so much better off taking one, from the health food store that's got 50 billion CFUs, and they're, 99.99% of them are dying. But no, that was 1999, so I'm going to buy that one. It's like, I would say, definitely to go with a spore-based product, take it every other day, take it every 2 days. It's still such a better, we know it's making a change in the gut, and such a better approach to gut health than taking the conventional types of probiotics. I say that with a lot of like moms with kids, split it among your kids, do it half a caps, a quarter of a cap, whatever, but get these strains into kids, because kids especially, they've been born into this antimicrobial world. I mean, at least we weren't, I wasn't, you were probably, but I mean, we were, I was born in, an area where nobody had allergies, nobody had any type of, autoimmune issues like they do now. And so I don't mean nobody, but very few people did. And now kids are, I mean, it's like peanut free tables, and, you
Yeah.
go out to dinner, what allergies do you have? So kids, I can't emphasize it enough that we want to see our kids taking the probiotics.
So would it be okay to pour it over the kids' food, or could we actually put it into something that's cooking?
Oh my God, that's another great question. So yes, you could open the capsule. I used to put in my son's piping hot oatmeal. You could actually bake with these strains. We actually tested this, and we found that you could bake with these up to 455 degrees, and they remain completely stable. So you could sneak them into your kids' food. If you make some healthy type of dessert, you could put them in there and make some probiotic, gluten-free, cookies or something. So yeah, it's really exciting that you could do that. I know a lot of moms really like that.
I like that. That's
A lot
great.
of people don't like to swallow pills, or they're taking so many supplements now that they just want to put it in. You could definitely do that with the probiotic. And And the prebiotic, we have a powder form, and then we have a capsule form. So you could do either one of those.
Yeah, I've been drinking the powder form. It's good tasting.
I agree. It's so funny. I love the taste of it. And my daughter doesn't. So she takes the capsules. And I'm like, I can't believe you don't like the taste of it. But it's funny. It's either a love-hate type of a relationship. So, but I love the taste. I think it's delicious.
So tell me about a few of the other products that are most profound that you guys get like amazing reviews on. Because I know you guys have really taken a lot of time and intention behind cultivating these products. So
Yeah, it's really important for us to just not, we have no interest in being 100 supplement type of a company where we have 100 different supplements. We are really focused on bringing products that are missing in the market and needed in the market. So, really something like vitamin C, I think is a really, really great nutrient. And I would suggest so many people take vitamin C. But I would never launch a vitamin C because, at least until I knew of new science out there, I wouldn't launch one because there's so many companies that are doing it well. We are really bringing things to the market that are not in the market or needed in the market, and they're needed in the market. So one of the really exciting products that we launched a few years back was our IgG product. So IgG stands for immunoglobulin G. It's one of the most common antibodies in our bodies. And antibodies are basically our body's defense mechanism for invaders that come into our body. And that's why IgG is so important, because it helps support our, body from these pathogens, from environmental to fungus to all different types of, toxins that our bodies, is faced with on a daily basis. And I think it's important to remember that our body is beautifully designed to like fight all of these types of viruses and pathogens, and we have to remember that, especially during this time. It's like we have to remember that our body really is beautifully designed, and to come from that point of view, not instead of a fearful point of view. If we go back to nature, that's what we were meant to do, was to clean up all these pathogens with IgG. But now this IgG is just supplemental to our already existing IgG. So this IgG gives our body about 25%, gives our gut 25% more IgG to help support the already existing IgG, combat some of those invaders that come into our gut. So it is so great. We actually were introduced to this IgG from a HIV convention, not convention, but an HIV meeting that we were invited to with the World HIV researchers, because they were doing some research on gut permeability. And so they loved our studies on leaky gut, and then they loved what the IgG manufacturers had. And so we were able to get the rights to those too. So we're able to sell those.
this
So
brings me so much joy.
I know, it brings me so much joy too.
Like I have tears. This is so
Oh,
cool.
yeah, it is. It was amazing. I mean, I have everybody on the IgG. I just think it's so important. It's such an important product. And then our Gut Fortify is really new, and that's really a mucosal support. So it's helping protect our mucosal. The mucosal barrier is it's the layer before the intestinal lining or in front of the intestinal lining. So we really want to make sure that we keep the integrity of that mucosal barrier. So not only is it supporting it, but we have amino acids that are actually helping rebuild the mucosal barrier. So really, really great thought out products that we have. And then we have our K27, which is not a gut health product, vitamin K2. But again, we found a need. We saw people are not taking vitamin K27 in the appropriate amounts. We know that really the therapeutic dose of vitamin K2 that's really making a change are higher amounts, like 320 micrograms and more. Vitamin K2 is really important for heart health and bone health. The job of vitamin K2 is to direct calcium away from the arteries where we don't want it and into the bones where we do want it. So really, really important nutrient to be taking. We recently launched an immunity product that is amazing. And then we launched a urinary tract health, because the urinary tract, the health of your urinary tract and your vaginal microbiome is dictated by the health of your gut. And so the combination of focusing on urinary tract health in conjunction with our gut health is so key. So, people are dealing with urinary tract issues quite often these days. And so we thought and we have some great studies on some of the ingredients. So we have a pet probiotic. So we got some really exciting products on our website, and anywhere you want to look. And I always encourage people too. I was talking about our team. Our customer service team is the most incredible. They're so brilliant and so kind and nice. And so I would definitely suggest if people have further questions, look at our blog, get on our blog, get on our emails. One of our core values is empowerment. I mean, this is why we got into this field, was we wanted to empower people to take control of their health. It's really important to us. And that's why we try to provide lots of research and information on our website to help empower people. Like, this may be the reason why I'm having this issue. And it might be the first step, the probiotic may be the first step, and then maybe adding different supplements, both ours and other, types of nutrients would be really beneficial to you. But I just want to empower people to like really take control of their health.
I want to go back to what you were saying about the K2 and the importance of pulling the calcium away from those other vital organs.
Yeah.
I
Isn't that,
just,
yeah.
it's huge. It's huge. And I'm so thankful that you guys have developed that product.
Yeah.
So what do you believe is possible for the human body when addressing all of these things and reducing inflammation?
I think there's so many incredible possibilities going on right now with the gut, now that we're just, like I said, just scratching the surface. I could see if we could clean up our world, that we live in, and it wasn't so detrimental to us, coupled with taking care of our gut health. I mean, I could see just health and people feeling good, and getting away from the pharmaceutical model and the amount of pharmaceuticals and the amount of, and removing like the chronic diseases that people are suffering from, reducing the amount dramatically of chronic diseases, because chronic diseases are caused by inflammation, and inflammation is caused by the leakiness of the gut. And we have to remember that we cannot allow that leakiness of the gut. And the possibilities are really endless, and just feeling good and living great lives. And I feel that I've already seen that with so many of our family members and myself and our team and my neighbors and so many people. So I think there's a lot of positive out there too. If we just remind ourselves that our bodies are beautifully designed to heal themselves. And unfortunately, we live in this world that's kind of toxic to us, but we do have different things to really take care of ourselves.
So what other projects do you guys have going on, Tina? There was mention of a health or wellness group that you guys have, or blog or post.
Well, I think it was probably more about the whole educating everybody. We're really focusing on really like honing down and educating our customer base, and other people too, expanding our customer base by just educating people on natural health and wellness, and empowerment, again, just to try to get people to start looking at alternatives to getting to the root cause of a problem. High blood pressure is a very serious thing. And I understand that people want to go on high blood pressure medicine, or, and so maybe figure out, why do you have high blood pressure? What's going on? Could you change your lifestyle? Can you start doing meditation and breathing? Can you start changing your diet? And realize, and if you don't want to, then you don't want to, and that's fine. But then figuring out, maybe I should be focusing on my gut. Maybe I should be doing all these other things. So I'm, whether it's an autoimmune issue, whether it's anxiety and depression, which is so prevalent right now. If people could just focus on getting to the root cause of why this is happening, I think the world would be such a better place. And I'm just trying to like spread that message as loud and clearly and kindly with compassion as I can. It's not judgment. It's just, it really is fun to live your life feeling good and being healthy. And again, like the stress thing we talked about, I can't emphasize enough. There's no probiotic, there's no probiotic, there's no supplement out there that will ever have a bigger impact on you than changing your lifestyle. If you're in a toxic work relationship, a toxic personal relationship, I mean, changing those things and eliminating the stress. And it's hard right now. People are at home with their kids, and e-learning and remote, and the kids are stressed, they're scared, they don't know are things going to go back to normal. It's very scary. But we have to just remember to like change the way we're looking at things, and that the one, thing that we do have control of is our attitude and how we approach things. And nobody could ever take that away from us. So I would just suggest that people try to look at life that way and know that we have control over our own, happiness. It's the way we choose and it's our attitude.
I agree. I
Said.
agree. Well
Yes.
said. Okay, so where can our audience find you guys? I mean, it's you got a lot going on.
Definitely have a lot going on. The best place would be our website, probably justthrivehealth.com. Of course, Instagram, Just Thrive Health, and Facebook, Just Thrive. But justthrivehealth.com. You could email us at info@justthrivehealth.com. And that would probably be the best place to find us.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Do you feel like there's anything else you would like to share with us? Anything else coming to mind?
Yeah, the only thing I'd love to share is maybe like for people just to take baby steps. When we want to start a new lifestyle or a new way of living or something to help us, we tend to jump all in and like, I'm going to do this, like the quintessential New Year's resolutions. But I would just suggest taking baby steps. I will admit, I mean, years and like probably almost 20 years ago, I was an avid Diet Coke drinker, and then it's like I just started going from like 3 to 1 and then 1 to 0 and then I did it a day and then I did it a week and then next thing you know I've not had one in almost
Yes.
I haven't had a Diet Coke in a long time. So just take baby steps. Maybe there's a supplement you want to try. Start out slowly, and then just start realizing that there's so many great products out there and there's so many, like the wine thing. I know you mentioned
Yeah,
Todd.
dry farm wine. Yeah.
That's the only wine my husband and I drink because it's like we enjoy wine, but we know that alcohol can be toxic and there's tons of sugar in wine and here we've got this clean wine option. Why not just drink that? And it's really it's great. So like just start taking baby steps and little changes end up really becoming lasting changes and profound changes.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Tina. Thank you for doing what you do. And thank you for accepting your invitation from life to step out of the pharmaceutical industry and do this.
Well, thank you for doing what you're doing. You're helping spread the message. So really appreciate it, Tricia.
All right. Thank you everyone for joining us. I'm your host, Tricia Reid, and this is Tina Anderson. I'll talk to y'all soon.